This one was, let's see, there is one of some IKers. I guess I'll share my screen again so that folks can see it. This one was Opal Creek with a bunch of friends. This one was Indigo Creek, which is a tributary of the Illinois River. This one was a fork of Indigo Creek. I believe this one was also a fork of Indigo Creek. Another Indigo Creek. Not that anybody was probably wondering where this river was. I'm trying. Oh, this one here was Thomas Creek, above Thomas Creek Falls, just below a rapid called Pumpkin Spice, because it was that time of year. I'm trying to think of any other ones. There was a waterfall picture. I don't think so this is a creek called Rock Creek, which is referred to as Gladiator Creek. Oregon Kayaking has a great story about this one, and there's also Jacob on his Into the Outside blog has a very comprehensive description of this run. And I think I gave names of all the other ones.
All right, great, thanks. And then Chad has a question. What are some pros and cons of hardshell versus IK kayaks for exploration?
That's a great question, and I am sure that I will be met with some arguing opinions, but both my husband and I are very fond of IKs. Both of us started out as IKers. I started out in a Sevlar Tahiti. My husband started out in a stiletto kayak, which he still has, and I now have a stiletto, which both of us agree they are superior inflatable kayaks. That said, I think the benefit of inflatable kayaking is the ability to jump out of them when you need to, particularly when you're doing lower water exploration trips. Like the experience I talked about on the Chetco is we had a friend, Derek Kellenbeck, and we kind of coined this phrase, the DK scramble, because he got halfway down this rapid and realized it, because it was low volume, it was too narrow to get his IK through, and he just jumped out of the IK, ran down the riverbank, and then jumped back in to pull it out of this rapid. I think IKs are also, they're much lighter and easier to pack in. My husband and I did a trip in Yosemite where the hike was significant, and being able to fold up a kayak and put it in a backpack system was still difficult, but much easier, I think, than would have been with a hard shell and overnight gear. So, you know, the drawback is you're not able to necessarily do rivers where there's large holes where your IK is going to fill up with water. It might slow you down. But I think there's a lot of benefits, and I think it's also a great introductory tool to folks that want to learn how to kayak, but are a little intimidated about being stuck in a plastic thing that can flip you over.
All right, thanks. And then Ken had a question. He has his hand up. So Ken, could you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah.
Certainly, thank you. And thank you, Priscilla, for some awesome photographs. Something that I didn't have a question about, but the access egress thing also applies to sit-on tops, which I would just want to point out. If you need to get out quick, yes, sit-on tops work. The question I ask is completely off topic. Are you related to the Macys of Tule Lake?
I feel like I've gotten that question before. I know our family tree is very interrelated, and my grandpa has documented that extensively. I would have to check on that. I originally came from the East Coast, Massachusetts, I think is where we hail from.
The reason I ask is that Kyle Macy, Bill Macy has won the Reno Air Races like 6 times. He runs a crop dusting operation in Tule Lake. It's
Wow.
it's not a common surname. And I just had to ask when I saw your name, I was going, Priscilla Macy. She must. But anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful.
That I will say, my dad's name is Bill Macy, but not that Bill Macy. So I find that funny.
Hey, Priscilla, I need to chime in here, and I know nobody, but my best buddy is Nate Macy, and
God.
and the Macys are out in Newburgh, and I texted him, hey, do you know anybody by the name Priscilla that you were related to? And he says, I've got no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my goodness. My family's broader than I know.
But anyway, really enjoyed your presentation. We'll sign off.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Matt.
All right, and we have a few more questions in the chat. Did you make or buy your carry system?
So for the IKs, I use the NRS backpack system, which has worked very well. For the hardshell kayaks, we have made our own. And I don't know if we've put up a blog post about it, but we should. I've taken all the photos. But basically what it is we bought a backpacking backpack waist strap separate from the backpack. So I have one from Osprey Packs that I got online. I think it was like $30 or $40. And we use pool noodles and NRS straps. And we have found that for the hard shells, it's more reliable, smaller packing wise and lighter weight than some of the commercially sold backpack systems. We've also used a wheelie system that I know for sure is on Jacob's blog and highly recommend for not very steep roads. Which
Great,
you can also
thanks.
throw in the back of your kayak when you're done using it.
All right, and now are most of your explorations day trips, and how much do you overnight in exploring?
So for myself, I haven't done a lot of overnight exploring. My husband's done much more. For me, the cold is a big limiting factor and small daylight hours when a lot of the creeks around here are running. So I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to that stuff, and I don't have enough I don't know. I feel like I'd want to own a Puffy onesie, like what they sell for infants, for myself. So in the summer, if there's the opportunity, or in the spring when it's a little warmer and there's more daylight hours, I love overnighting. As a commercial raft guide, I did a lot in Idaho, in Oregon, and I just love the experience of being totally disconnected technologically, being able to truly enjoy a place, spend time with friends around a campfire. It's just so rewarding. I wish I did more of it. And I think if I lived in a warmer place, I probably would.
All right, thanks. And a Puffy onesie, that might be your $15 million idea.
So Eddie Bauer actually sells them.
Oh, okay.
I just can't justify buying it as much as I'd like to.
All right, and Mari asks, who's selling stiletto kayak?
Oh, I wish they were. We keep pinging people to ask them to make them again. Currently, no one manufactures them. However, I think that Jacob's dad has a connection to the person that used to make them, and if there was a minimum order, I heard a rumor that he might make them again.
All right, Mari, minimum order. All right, and then Ken, you had another hand up?
Thank you, Terry. This is a question that nobody wants to hear.
Uh-oh.
Microplastics.
We'll end the meeting then. No.
Maybe we should. Microplastics. Microplastics are making their way into the biosystems everywhere.
Yep.
The bottom of Lake Tahoe is filled with them. They're getting into the food systems. I'm an old school kayaker. I avoided rocks. I didn't boof them. I didn't do creek. I didn't do any of that. I actually brought this question up on the PDX kayaker Facebook and got shouted down by being a wimp or something. I'm old enough to ask if the kayaking community wanted to, could we make boats that don't leave plastic in the river? I know this is a question that is beyond us, but I wanted to put it out there so everybody has it at least in their mind. Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Ken. Good food for thought.
And I think that's a great, great question and something I've thought about. In the last couple of years, I was involved in a project with a group called Adventure Scientist, and what they are doing was gathering data on microplastics in wild and scenic rivers throughout the country. And it made me think about the sport that I do. Not only what are we contributing to these ecosystems, but also what happens when our boat breaks and it's just, there's no recycling process. I think one of the things that our industry really needs is an injection of money, or I don't know where that comes from, so that we have the ability to innovate our crafts so that they're less likely to break down. We have paddled pre-on boats and they obviously are much more durable. And I don't, obviously I don't know what the difference is between how much plastic they leave behind in a creek or not, but I would imagine based on their lifespan, it's much less. So I think if we have the ability to create longer lasting crafts through money into the industry in terms of R&D, that might be a solution.
Priscilla, I don't mean to put this on you. I mean, this is something we all need to think about. What happened when I got shotted down on the PDX Facebook site, which, there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there anyway, but it's like our contribution was so minor, why are you even bringing it up? And my answer to that was, well, just the fact that we're contributing is the issue. It's not how minor it is, it's that we're contributing. So I appreciate you trying to take this on your own shoulders. But I think it's something we all need to think about. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thanks, and we'll do a couple more questions and then wrap it up. So Chad asks, are there specific items you bring in your safety kit or first aid for exploring that are different than your rafting safety stuff?
I would say yes. One, in a rafting safety kit, you're able to bring more just by nature of the craft and by necessity. So if I'm rafting on the Illinois, I would bring supplies for, a pin kit, perhaps. I might bring a static line. I might bring more carabiners. With a kayak, particularly with a multi-day trip or a trip where you might need to portage or hike a bit, you want to be as lightweight as possible. What my husband and I have done is we have a basic safety kit that fits in a water bottle, and the water bottle is a benefit because it keeps all the things dry, and it takes up a little amount of space. So we have things from antihistamines to basic wound care, other, anti-inflammatories, painkillers, those sorts of things in that small water bottle kit. We also bring our spot device, which is, kind of the last resort. If everything's gone awful, you have the ability to communicate with emergency responders. The other thing that we bring is some snacks and ability to filter water if it's a stream where you would want to filter water. Sometimes in the Coast Range, in areas of large clear cuts, and that there's been pesticides and herbicides used, we will bring water for ourselves because that's not necessarily something you can filter out or trust to filter out. And I guess I would invite my husband, Jacob, to unmute himself if he has any other feedback on that, because I'm sure I missed something. I guess a breakdown paddle is another thing that I can think of that we would bring, and gorilla tape in case we crack a boat, and a lighter.
Yeah, I was just going to add the lighter. We also bring a handsaw. I'm surprised how often that comes in handy, where just 3 minutes clipping a limb will save you like a 30-minute portage sometimes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Chad asks, and this is our last question, how can we get more involved directly with some of the conservation legal stuff you are working on? Oh, and Chad, if you're interested in conservation, I'll talk to you about
Yeah.
conservation with WKCC.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Priscilla.
Yeah, I was going to say the WKCC is a great group to ask about. American Whitewater, you can email me and I'll share my email with the group. But also just staying up to date on the American Whitewater blog or journal. They often post, real-time action alerts that simply writing a letter or calling decision makers really does make a difference. And I can attest to that. When you have 1,000 calls go to a legislator, it really does make a difference. Right now, or maybe it's concluded, there was a recent issue around the South Fork salmon and a mine that could impact it and degrade it. That's something that AW's been involved in. But yeah, feel free to email me if you really want to get involved. I can give you some volunteer work. American Whitewater, the WKCC, American Rivers, they're all great organizations to make sure you're on the mailing list for, so that you're up to date and you can just fill out those forms, call or message your legislators. And I think it just kind of depends on how much volunteer work you're willing to give, because there's a lot of it.
All right. Well, thank you, Priscilla. Let's give Priscilla a round of applause. Yay, Priscilla. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wanted to close the presentation part of the meeting. And I know a lot of people need to go, but if anyone wants to